Welcome
to Film Shapes,
the podcast.
It's official, old buddy. Well, it has been.
August night and the leaves hanging down and the grass.
Okay, guys, welcome. Today we're going to talk about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But first, hi, Roly.
Hello.
And making his debut, it's Ben. Hi, Ben.
Hello.
How you going?
Good.
Excellent. Now, this is Tarantino's 10th film, and it's pretty much a homage or a love letter to Hollywood. It kind of blends two stories together. One's a fading actor and his stuntman friend, that's DiCaprio and Pitt, and the other's this Sharon Tate Manson family story. Now, what do we think, guys? I'm curious. I haven't talked to you guys at all about this film yet, so it's all fresh to me. What do you reckon, Rolly?
Okay, for me, this was a much more interesting film to talk about after the film than it was to watch. I didn't find it an enjoyable film to watch, apart from a couple of moments, which we'll talk about, but that's a brief summary of my angle on the film.
Right. Oh, okay. But that's good in a way, isn't it?
Well, I think so. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting film. I think it's possibly Tarantino's most interesting film in that sense. It's in terms of the discussion of it.
Okay. But when you were watching it, not having it.
It was tedious. A lot of it was tedious.
Interesting.
There's a lot of vignettes that, I think it was just made up of a series of mildly entertaining vignettes. But that was punctuated with one or two more intense moments, shall we say.
Sure. Ben, what about you?
Well, I did think it was quite atypical of a Tarantino film. Like, it definitely had a different overall tone. It felt much more like, I don't know, like if Richard Linklater made a Tarantino film. It was just a lot of like hanging out, people having loose conversations, and it kind of felt like a fun romp to me. I quite enjoyed the movie, and yeah, I mean, I can understand why it would seem boring in the context of his other work, but I quite liked that it had a different kind of tone and was much more laid back, and like I also thought that sort of helped accentuate the parts of the film which were more in Tarantino's wheelhouse, particularly the scenes of violence that pop up.
Yeah, well, you sort of knew it was coming.
That's right. Everyone's waiting for it. It's sort of up to then. It was, this is quite a different. And suddenly, okay, now it's yeah.
Couldn't help himself.
I don't
know. I was reading a thing on. It was a psychology thing called the peak end principle or something. It's based on your idea of an experience, or your experience of a particular situation is based largely on its peak, or its peak levels and its end, rather than the sum average of all of the whole experience.
Yeah.
So I think what Tarantino's done here, he's put, he's got quite a couple of really strong spikes in a largely,
otherwise
kind of
flat,
meandering, flat scene, and one of those spikes happens to be at the end as well. So you leave the film going, maybe it wasn't that as bad as I was, because about that quarter of or a third of the way in, or maybe even a bit further than that, I was thinking, this is really, it's not doing it for me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it too much now.
I heard
instead of watching the film.
I'd heard something similar to that without the peak bit, like just that if you end the film in a sort of blaze of glory, people will remember that as a great film.
Yeah.
But if the good stuff's at the beginning and it sort of peters off, they won't remember that as a good film. It's something similar to that.
The research is based largely on pain, research about pain. So if you have a strong peak of pain, but it's not at the end.
Of what?
Of your procedure. So you're having a medical procedure which involves pain.
Yeah.
If the strongest level of pain is not at the end of the procedure, then you're more likely to go away from it
thinking, that was all right.
It wasn't as bad as,
Weird.
Whereas if that is at the end, then you don't want to have that procedure again.
So did you find the ending of the film painful, is the question?
I did
Really?
actually, in some, it was uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yes.
When we're talking about the ending, I'm talking more about the kind of
climax.
violent peak rather than the little
denouement.
come down.
Yeah.
What did you call that?
The denouement.
The denouement.
Denouement.
Denouement for some people.
It's
all
enlighten
French.
me, please.
It's the final bit, basically.
Yeah, great.
The wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, I'll remember that.
I had a long think about this as well, and during it, I think I was a bit more amenable to it than you. I was thinking, it's good. I don't mind a long film, but this, I don't know. It did seem like I almost had to look at my watch, and I don't like to do that.
Yeah, to
me, I thought this is nearly 3 hours. It was 2 hours 40 about. It seemed a bit longer.
My ticket at Luna yesterday, I think, said 2:55, but that might have included
everything. Yeah. So it's no longer than, like, I thought this is his longest ever. I double checked. I went back. I think The Hateful Eight's a bit longer, a little bit longer, and Django might be as long. And he does like a long film, but this just really dragged for me. I thought
it leaves you in a funny mode because we were at the premiere as well, and people got up and clapped at the end, and it was like,
did you go to Cannes or something?
No,
Where's this? Luna?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It was people clapping.
People are clapping at the end of the movie, and we were there.
on.
You know, it was almost like arms folded. Like, no, I'm not.
You didn't stand up and clap?
Absolutely.
I bet
not.
Seb didn't have
Absolutely.
a bit of that either,
way.
did he?
No way. No, and actually, so the person I saw it with, Seb, you know, he was completely negative on the film.
Okay.
Coming out of it, but walking out, I think about, you know, in the kilometre walk between the cinema and back here. I think we got to a point of discussing it at such a level that it became much more interesting again.
Okay,
and I think it's that kind of film it's more fun to talk about than it is to watch. But still,
there are some great things in it, I think, but there are also, apart from the length of it, I formulated this theory, and probably a not too popular theory. Let me see what you guys think. Tarantino is fated as a great director, would you say?
Sure.
Almost like a star. Like, there's not too many of them around. If you ask the bog standard punter, tell me a director, they'll say Spielberg,
I agree, yeah.
maybe Tarantino.
He's celebrity
maybe,
as well.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I think he might be winging it a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's fractured timelines, there's over-the-top comic violence, and great soundtracks. And is there much else?
I don't think he relied as heavily on soundtrack as he has in the past.
I don't know.
No, I mean, there's a lot of needle drops, but it's much more like, you know, sort of songs that you associate with the era, you know, like, you know, Ms. Robinson, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Rather than his normal, you know, MO, which is to pick, you know, fairly obscure, you know, B-sides and that kind of stuff, and like you really curate a, you know, a really bespoke kind of soundtrack. Whereas this felt more like he's just kind of encompassing the era.
He's been quite accurate with that too, hasn't he? Yeah. I checked a few of these songs, and they all seem to be around that era. So.
Yeah.
But I think he's smarter than that. Actually, I think he knows exactly what he's doing here, and he's got some.
I don't know.
He's got some ideas about why he's doing it that we're not necessarily aware of.
Do you think he's calculating for his audience, or do you think he's just putting his heart on his sleeve?
I think he's thinking this could likely be my last film in this whatever format, and it's important for me, and I'm gonna hide some stuff in there.
This is another thing. Why is he saying this could be? Is he dying or something? What's going on?
No, I think he's just concerned about his legacy, and he wants to sort of, you know, ensure that he's got a narrative around his career that's, you know, he doesn't fade out. He doesn't have that like bad back end.
It also feels as well like he almost could have gone down in, you know, not to say he's guilty of the same things, but with the Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Thing, you know, that was he was.
He copped a little bit of flack for being a bit abusive.
Yeah, and he's always kind of been that way anyway. He's always been, you know, had that kind of slightly misogynistic element. And, you know, that's something, you know, he's very aware of that in this film, but it's almost like he's sort of almost poking the bear.
Yes, yes, isn't he?
Which is, you know, his right to do as a director.
Sure.
But I think it's a mistake to say he's not aware of what he's doing there. I think he's doing it really consciously.
Yeah, well, and I think, I mean, you look at his previous film, The Hateful Eight. I mean, if that film is an exercise in rubbing people's noses in, all of the worst impulses I think that he brings to filmmaking.
That's where he underlined, "Fuck you guys, I'm just going to do what I like." I think. Yeah.
Whereas this felt, I felt like this felt like a step back. Like if anything, this felt much more sort of humanistic and like. I mean, this is the first time I think I've seen a Quentin Tarantino film where a character has an emotional breakdown because of a self-realization that they come to from reading a book, which is weirdly atypical of Quentin Tarantino.
So, but I think this film is more about himself than any of his other films, isn't it?
For sure.
Because he's taken that, the Manson murder is the icon of Hollywood violence. He also is an icon of Hollywood. Why is that a spoiler?
Well, because no.
Everyone knows it's about. Everyone knows.
Not everybody. Not everybody.
I mean, can we get into spoilers?
I think we have
the end of this film? I mean,
we have
it
to.
feels very difficult to have a meaningful discussion about this movie without.
There would be some young folk, and this is another issue I've got with this: young folk and people who aren't versed in this. For example, my wife, she was like, why is that?" And I was going, "Ooh, interesting. Look what he's done." She's going, "What's going on?"
Oh, they don't know about.
She didn't know about the Manson stuff. So they may be thinking, "Oh, this is not revisionism at all. This is what happened." And so what kind of career did this Sharon Tate woman end up having? Fuck all, sadly. Now, I don't know. That's where I think he did build up to a kind of mature film, and then he kind of almost ruined it with the bloody smashings and violence going on at the end, and hiding the fact that this bad shit really did happen. I don't know. That's
he's
one
clever
way of
though.
looking at it.
I mean, how much did you love Brad Pitt in this film?
Not a heap, but he was fine. Brad Pitt's Brad Pitt. He doesn't act. He just acts.
Yeah, I was
Brad.
wondering about that because you seem to have a fairly low opinion.
No,
of
it's
him.
not. I like him. That's the thing.
But he seemed perfect for this role.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought this was really like utilizing his natural charisma.
Yes.
Yeah, and I found myself completely drawn in by that, and I really loved Brad, and I was with him as a hero. Even, and this is, I reckon, credit to Tarantino, even though apparently he's murdered his wife with a spear gun. And I kind of forgot about that.
What
Quite
did you
unnecessary.
think of that hanging question? Like, I mean, because I read that as like, I'm assuming it was kind of intended just as a reference to like the death of Natalie Wood.
Of course, yeah.
And like the rumors surrounding her husband Robert Wagner and his involvement in her death.
Okay, yeah.
But like, was it intended just as a reference to that, or was it meant to be?
Fuck knows. It is a little bit obtuse. I think.
I think he leaves it hanging so that you continue to believe that he's the good guy. He doesn't like blowjobs from teenage girls.
Yeah.
He's still a person that we respect. He's loyal. He's very loyal.
But
to
why
his
would
man.
he? Why would he even include that then?
Because
At
he's
all.
got to give him permission. He's giving Brad permission to do what he does at the end, which is the most misogynistic piece of violent awfulness I've seen in a long time on the
outside of
on the
Hateful
screen.
Eight, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen that film.
Right.
But and it's all directed at women. So so he's got to have somehow, and Tarantino goes to the point where that violence goes on to a point where it becomes funny, right? But then it goes on longer than that again, where it's kind of funny but
too
uncomfortable
much.
as
It's
well,
too
and
much,
it's too much. And it's like, what are you trying to do here? And I think maybe he's saying, don't accuse me of being a misogynist because you're the one laughing.
Yeah.
And you've and you already knew that he killed his wife probably, so it's on you. And who did this to us?
And
Hollywood did.
and using Pitt as because everyone's favourite pin-up boy Pitt sort of
Yeah, well, I think everyone in this film is a stand-in for some part of Tarantino's psyche.
Yeah.
That's how I read the film.
Okay.
Everyone. He is Sharon Tate sitting in the cinema, loving himself as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uncomfortably kind of loving himself.
Uncomfortably, that's the point. Okay. Yeah, I still think he could have been more mature in that sequence. And yeah, sure. Change history, do what you want. He did the same in Inglourious Bastards and Django, probably to an extent. Do that. It's his choice. But fuck, there was a lot of blood. And I'm not necessarily squeamish, but yeah, I don't know. It still sat a little uncomfortably for me.
It was very confrontingly violent, even for a Tarantino film, especially like having a lead up to that where, the only violence you see prior to that in the film is, I suppose, the scene from the 14th of McCluskey where he burns the Nazis, which obviously parallels the ending of Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
And then, the scene where... a
couple of punches.
Yeah, Brad Pitt's punching out the guy who stabbed his tire. Mm-hmm. But then, and the guy gets a bloody nose.
That was a good sequence, by the way.
That was great.
That whole
one
scene
of
with
the
the
standouts.
ranch.
That was almost the point where it turned into another film.
Yeah.
Like, it was two separate films before that.
Dude,
it was a separate film before that point.
And that's another thing. It is two films in one, squeezed in.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, that also could be... It's achievable. I just think he let him drag. I don't know. I can't pinpoint which bits he could have edited, but I don't know. He needs a stronger editor, maybe, to say, Quentin, you don't need that bit.
His editor that he worked with for his first 7 or 8 films died in 2010.
Is that right? Okay.
And her assistant is now his editor and did the last 2 films.
And he did Galaxy as well, Guardians of the Galaxy. I think Fred Raskin, is that this guy?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And I thought there was some really odd but interesting editing choices in this movie, like the scene where he's Timothy Oliphant's character, James Stacey, I think he's playing. Comes over and talks to him, and there's these just jump cuts where all of a sudden they're wearing a hat, and the conversation kind of just cuts mid-sentence.
Yeah.
Which was I don't know, I wasn't quite sure what the intentionality behind that was. I think I read one review where they suggested it was about, showing the choppy editing techniques which would have been typical of a television production at the time, but I don't know if I necessarily buy that argument. I thought it was just, I don't know, like a few of the stylistic things in the film, it felt like a fairly like there wasn't really a reason behind the choice other than just to show a bit of flair.
But that's Tarantino, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, all the extra stuff of fucking feeding his dog and watching this TV show called Mannix. That was 15 minutes or something, wasn't it? It felt like it for me. Come on.
There's a lot of setup for those moments at the end.
Well,
it's all set up for these moments at the end.
The dog food in the face. Yeah,
the dog food in the face, and the dog being so trained that he can...
that's a good point.
He's doubling down on his strengths with this, and almost the rest of the film, he's almost saying, I can make a different type of... Maybe he's not doing it particularly well, but I can make a different type of film if I want to. But really, the main violence is reserved for that one peak at the end.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a very short part of the film, and the rest of the film is not very violent at all.
No,
apart from the bit of the punch up at the ranch. But did you read anything on what the Manson mob might represent in this film?
No, you're about to tell us.
Very interesting. Yeah.
To Tarantino, you mean?
Yeah. And whether he's done this on purpose.
I'm guessing his critics.
Or his fans?
No.
Is he Charles Manson?
I'm going to tell you. It's great. Think about this.
Okay.
It's Netflix, man. It's Netflix.
Oh, fucking hell.
So they're the new generation coming in to kill the old ways.
Yeah.
He is pretty anti. Is he the one that... He's one of the guys that's very anti-Netflix.
I'm not sure, but he's almost saying this is the old Hollywood dying. This is the change,
but they didn't.
But that's his reimagining of it.
His wish fulfillment.
That's his wishful thinking, is that he could do to Netflix what Brad did to the Manson crew. But by Netflix, he's talking about the changing of the film landscape and how it is different, and the ranch is very important in that context as well. That represents the same thing. It's one section, an older style of Hollywood. The whole film, television's really important in this as well. Everyone's always watching TV.
Yes,
and you can relate it all back to the Netflix phenomenon.
Really, you reckon that's
not my
his threat? Yeah, basically, it's not your theory.
No, it's not my theory.
Oh, good.
But I think it holds up when you look at it. With that in mind, I think the context plays out quite truthfully.
Ben?
I can see you're not convinced. You need some time to you need some time for it to settle in. But,
right.
But when you think about, why have so much television in the film as well? That's kind of.
I just saw that as massaging his nerdism. Look,
everything represents. Show all this. Tarantino, I don't think he makes films where things aren't there for a reason. You know, everything has a representation.
I think he does.
I think he does. Yeah, I think a lot of the references were just there for the pastiche of it.
It's so cool, man. You can imagine. Let's put this
So
here.
you think he knows,
That's great.
people are going to make up stuff about this. I don't know what it is, but hey, doesn't matter. So then he's not even thinking about Netflix, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I want him to be cleverer than that. Otherwise, I feel like he is kind of just
I don't
making
think
a misogynistic film.
No, I don't think he is cleverer than that. I think he's about that level.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but who knows? We don't know him. If we'd met him, perhaps.
Definitely, when he's speaking about his film, you don't get the impression that he's being that clever.
Oh, he's detailed. I'd say.
Yeah.
It's very detailed with what he wants to do.
I would say actually that he is very clever, but he's not necessarily intelligent. Like he's very good at knowing information. He's very good at presenting information that reflects the fact that he's aware of this information. But I don't think he synthesizes that into anything necessarily all that meaningful. And if you look at the ending of this film, the ending of Inglourious Basterds, which are these like violent revisions of history, and you can kind of read into those a fairly, facile understanding of how you would right the wrongs of history.
Yes.
It's like, we'll just burn Hitler alive.
But that seems to be the obvious
Let's make sure
thing.
she doesn't die. Let's kill somebody. Let's kill the fucking hippies that did it to her.
Yeah.
I feel it. That's too simple to me. But I mean, you might be right. Maybe that's all it is. But I think there's a lot more reading going in. You can read definitely a lot more into it, and that maybe that makes it a little more important in a way. The fact that people can read other things into it, even if it's not intended.
Yeah, well, no, that's fine. I'm sure he's happy that people are doing what we're doing right now. I guess. The title, is this anything to do with his? Why do you think he's called it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Well, it's a reference to the Western movies, obviously.
Yeah. And Once Upon a Time in America.
Yeah, the Sergio Leone films.
Yeah. So,
but is it like I guess like a lot of things in the film, like is it just a reference for the sake of it being a reference, or is it meant to be an underlying meaning? Like, I mean, like it has a very similar title to Once Upon a Time in America, but is there any other parallel other than the fact that was directed by Sergio Leone?
I wouldn't say so.
No.
Probably that's it. But it sounds like we're doing him an injustice. He's still got panache and technique and style. And...
I think there's also the thing of violence, the way violence is addressed in this film, both directly and indirectly, and the way the Manson crew kind of point the finger back at Hollywood and say, movies did this to us. Movies have created us. And and that's what Quentin is doing as well, right? He's saying, it's not me, it's you guys, because you wanted this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be as famous a director as I am.
So he's playing to his audience, pretty much.
I think he is, but I do think he's trying to kind of appease them on a different level with this one, potentially, because so much of the film is not... Because it's a different film for him, like you said. It's, but he still does have that peak violence, which he needs, and he's clever enough to put it in at the end, so it still feels like a...
What's your favourite Tarantino film, just of interest here?
Oh, I did enjoy Inglourious Basterds, but I haven't seen I haven't seen Django and The Hateful Eight.
Go back a little. Apparently this is his 10th, right? Or 9th.
Yeah, so...
I mean, Kill Bill is one film, but I think that's two.
Yeah, I didn't really dig Kill Bill so much. I think Pulp Fiction would probably be... and that sounds really commercial, but...
I'm going to be that guy and say Jackie Brown.
Oh, me too, yeah. I'm the other guy who says Jackie Brown. That film seemed to me... Like, Pulp Fiction's great. Reservoir Dogs I like too.
Yeah.
But it seemed Jackie Brown was like, he's getting a bit more mature. He's sort of getting something else apart from the gimmicks. And then it sort of went a bit downhill from there for me. Inglourious Basterds was a good fun romp, but...
Well, was Kill Bill the next one after Jackie Brown?
Was, yeah.
Because, Kill Bill, you look at Jackie Brown as a, sort of step towards him kind of getting out of his own way and, pushing aside all these, overly stylistic flourishes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Kill Bill is such a 180 back in the day. It's just every single shot is a reference to another movie.
Yeah. So maybe he thought, I've got that. Yeah, I've done that film. Now let me go back to what I like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So where would you place this on the rung?
I haven't seen Death Proof, and that's probably the only one I haven't seen.
Death Proof is definitely a weaker.
Is it? Okay.
I mean, it's if you take it as like a B movie, it's a sort of satisfying example. I mean, also speaking of incredibly violent scenes, that first car crash in that movie is.
But hang on,
horrifying.
Is that the one? It had two films in one. Was that?
Yes, that was Grindhouse, was Death Proof, and Planet Terror.
Planet Terror was
Rodriguez
but
one.
Death Proof was actually.
But then they were both re-released
right.
as individual
Separate films for that. Okay.
Because like the original version of Grindhouse, I think had like they did a thing where 45 minutes of each film was just cut out because there were reels missing.
Oh, really?
It was meant to be like a found object kind of thing.
Okay.
And then they did the re-release of the two films separately.
It's hard. I haven't thought about it, but I'd say probably mid. I mean, Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction, probably Inglourious or Reservoir next, and then maybe this. I don't really like Hateful Eight or Kill Bills, and Django was so-so. So probably, this is better than those ones, but not as good as the first ones I mentioned. I'd say so middle, roughly.
Yeah. Do you think he'll make another film?
Apparently, he's doing a Star Trek next.
Yeah, that's
that'll
the word.
That'll be ridiculous.
No way. What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This has been rumored for a while, and he's like publicly said he's really interested in making a Star Trek movie.
Yeah. Yep.
And I would be fascinated to see what would happen with that.
Will it be sanctioned by Roddenberry and his crew, or because surely there's.
I mean, if it's going to be a Star Trek, it would have to be, produced with the cooperation of whoever owns the rights.
They're not going to let him fuck with that, are they? I
don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know that Roddenberry's estate actually owns the license. It's probably owned by
some TV station.
I think at some point that changed. Even going back as far as Deep Space Nine was a real.
No, but that
got away from the Star Trek, the original.
I think that was sanctioned. I think there's always a Roddenberry name at the end of the credits in those.
I'm not sure if Deep Space Nine did.
And
I'm not sure with the new stuff. All the Netflix stuff.
This
I don't know
Discovery
what's going on there.
Yeah.
It's changed.
Well, there is.
a lot.
Maybe he wants to take it back from the evil Netflix Manson family people.
Oh, yes.
Possibly.
He's going to insert the Manson family again into
his Star Trek. This film now, box office wise, it's his third most profitable or third best returns.
Yep.
Django first, and then Inglourious. Worldwide, anyway, it's probably going to get up a little bit more, but still not much when you think about crazy box office these days. It's only a couple of 200, 300 million around the world.
Yeah, okay.
So he's got fans, but he doesn't have mega fans, if you know what I mean. So
no, but still, I mean, $300 million for a film as weird and long as this.
Yes,
like this isn't. Well, I mean, Avengers Endgame obviously was a long movie, but it is. I like that Quentin Tarantino was able to make films as not personal necessarily, although obviously this was a fairly personal film for him, but he's able to make these huge spectacle films which are so of themselves and not necessarily aligned with any of the other sort of trends in mainstream filmmaking. And that he is able to. It's kind of like I don't really enjoy listening to Radiohead, but I like the fact that Radiohead exists. That's kind of how I feel about Quentin Tarantino.
Terry Gilliam used to do that years and years ago.
Yeah.
Like he'd be a really weird, odd filmmaker with budgets, and you'd think, how did they give him money for this? What's going on here? All that now, I guess you're right there, but Tarantino, if he does jump into Star Trek, that'll be a strange. Like he's into a franchise, then, isn't he? And that'll be the first time. So.
And
odd.
Is it going to be an R-rated Star Trek?
You'd hope so. Yeah. That'll be fun. Yeah,
I wonder.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about it, guys. That's plenty. Cool. Thank you very much, Ben.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
No worries, Roly. Thanks again.
See you later.
See ya. Bye.
You're Rick fucking Dalton. Don't you forget it.